Start recording. All right. So thank you for your participation. This is the first session of a two-session export series. Today's session is Export Basics, Government and Private Resources for Your International Expansion. This webinar is hosted by the City of Palm Bay and the Greater Palm Bay Chamber of Commerce. And it is hosted in part with the SBA and several other key moderators and panelists that you'll hear from today. So I'm going to be advancing the slide, and we will get started with SBA, Sandra Murtas and Vincent Presti.
Yes, good morning. My colleague Vince Lopresti will be the first one that will start with the presentation. So I will let Vince proceed.
Thank you for that, Sandra. Good morning, everybody. As Sandra said, my name is Vince Lopresti. I'm the Senior Area Manager of Small Business Administration. I'm out of the Fort Pierce Alternative Work Site as part of the South Florida District Office. And because of time constraints, what we're going to just do today is just go over a little bit of what the SBA can offer you. Next slide. So the best way to find out what the SBA does and who our resource partners are would be to take a look at our website, the sba.gov. And on this is the front landing page of the SBA website. You've got the business guide, funding programs, contracting, the learning platform, local assistance, and about the SBA. Now, the learning platform has been basically been redone. It's kind of on steroids. So next slide, please. So here's the Learning Center. When you go on the learning platform, on the Learning Center, there are about 100 and some odd different tutorials on there. They're anywhere from 2 minutes to 10 minutes long about anything you want to talk about for your business. It's there. We also started beginning of the year a Ascent platform. Now that platform is geared towards women's business owners, but men can use it too. This is how the SBA is trying to use its outreach by social media and an online platform to increase its presence in the rural areas. So if you take a look at that Ascent platform, there are 5 learning modules on there. Talks everything about disaster, financing, cash flow, and how to market your business and hire employees. So take a look at that, even if you're a woman or a man owned or a gentleman owned business. So take a look at that. Boost the business. So if you're in the Armed Forces, we do boots to business at the Air Force Base and Coast Guard centers and all that. And we do those about, once a month at different locations. We also do occasionally a reboot to business in different locations. And, we will be doing those too. And then Emerging Leaders is being done right now down in South Florida in the Miami office. Those are for second tier companies who try to increase their footprint and learn some of the techniques they don't know to help bring their business to the next stage. Next slide. When you think about the SBA, most people think about just the SBA by itself, but the SBA can't work by itself unless you talk about our resource partners. Our resource partners are probably in every little nook and cranny and county in the state of Florida, except for maybe 2 counties down over by the lake that are really small. So when we talk about resource partners, we talk about the Small Business Development Center. We talk about SCORE, Women's Business Centers. Also for veteran-owned businesses, we have the VBOC. Local chambers are great places for assistance too, to try to grow your business and become a member of the chamber. Local economic development organizations, also local, your city and some of your other county locations are also our resource partners. So we kind of help them by providing information as to what's going on and where, and to have them bring your questions to us so we can provide training for you and for the members. Next slide. So just a brief introduction for access to capital, and we're going to be talking about this a little bit more next week. So the SBA, we have financial programs for just about any type of business you want to do in any stage of your business. So if you're looking to start your business, we probably have a loan for you there to grow your business, to do export of goods and services, and Sandra will talk about that a little bit more, and recover from a disaster. We've all been recovering from COVID-19 for the last 14 months. Hopefully we can see the end of that by the next, by say the end of summer. But then we got to worry about hurricane season, other type of disaster. So the SBA can help you with that. The SBA, we do not underwrite loans. The SBA loan program, we guarantee the loan. So in order to obtain financing for an SBA loan, you would have to talk to your local lender, be it the small banks like Sunrise Bank in Brevard County, the big banks, Chase, Wells Fargo's, Bank of America, Seacoast, and anything in between. Can be used for most of your financing needs. There are some stuff we can't do in some industries that aren't eligible. If you have any questions on that, just let us know. Shoot us an email. We can, kind of screen you there and kind of guide you the right way. We also have allow multiple loans. So if you're a franchisee and you're looking to open up several locations, you can have more than one SBA loan outstanding as long as you don't reach your cap. And we always say, hey, if you don't have a lender, we always suggest you go to your lender first to look for financing. But if you don't have a lender, maybe you're looking for a small microloan or something, we have on our website Lenders Match, which is found with the www.sba.gov financing. That should be an HTTPS, not HTTP. So I don't know what happened there. Next slide, please. Nope. Okay, back. Okay, so that's there. And then Sandro, you want to talk a little bit about exporting?
Yes, thank you, Vin. As you mentioned, next week, on the 28th, we will expand on these programs, but I just want you to know that SBA has a division called the Office of International Trade that works with small business exporters and small businesses that are interested in exporting. So for that purpose, to help them expand internationally, we basically have 3 programs that will help them access capital to expand internationally. We start with the International Trade Loan, which is basically the 7A with a 90% guarantee. It can be used for multiple purposes, including financing facilities, acquisition of facilities, refurbishing equipment, business acquisitions, and permanent working capital that will help small businesses to expand internationally. We also have the Export Express, which is an excellent program that goes up to $500,000 with a 90% guarantee up to $350,000 and 75% between $350,000 and $500,000. This can be issued as a line of credit that you can use to finance your export expansion, financing transactions, export sales, helping you to become more competitive internationally in terms of upgrading your facilities, upgrading your equipment, your website, any expense that will help you to expand internationally. And you can still use the line to finance your domestic sales and working capital needs. Finally, for the companies that have grown considerably internationally, SBA provides a line of credit that is used only to finance export transactions. It's the Export Working Capital Program. It goes up to $5 million, and we will guarantee to the bank 90% of that. You can use it to finance purchase orders. You get an order from a foreign buyer. You need working capital to manufacture the product or acquire the product or provide a service. You can go to the bank and actually get up to 90% of the PO purchase order value, or you can use it to finance foreign account receivables. You already made the sale. You're going to be paid in 30, 60 days. You need the money now. You can take that to the bank and get an advance of up to 90%. And finally, we can issue the line as an asset-based line of credit, in which you can use the foreign account receivables and also the export inventory. And you can get up to 75% advance rate on that export inventory to help you carry out your working capital needs for the export sales. As I mentioned, next week we will be expanding on the programs and providing more details and how you can apply with your bank and how can SBA help you expand internationally. Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jill McLaughlin. I'm an international trade specialist with the Florida SBDC. And I thought I'd just, before I got started, just tell you a little bit about the Florida SBDC. Next slide, please. The Florida SBDC is designated by the state of Florida as the principal provider of small business assistance. Our mission is to help small businesses grow and succeed. We do that through no cost, one-on-one consulting services, assisting small businesses with a variety of needs, including cash flow management, sales and marketing, strategic planning, a variety of topics as small businesses have a variety of needs. We also offer a number of workshops and seminars and have special services for established businesses, including government contracting services, growth acceleration, and what I'm here to tell you about today, our international trade services. Next slide, please. Our international trade specialists work with companies to assist you in understanding the complexities of international trade, evaluate different international markets, provide market research. I like to say that our market research capabilities are such that we're able to offer market research of a Fortune 500 company to small businesses. We offer different training programs, and then our flagship program is our Export Marketing Plan service. Next slide, please. Through our Export Marketing Plan service, we provide customized and comprehensive export marketing plans that are really intended to be a roadmap for companies that are new to export or companies seeking to expand into new markets. The document is very rich in market research, whereby we look for indicators of demand for your product or service in markets all around the world, and then use that information to identify which markets we think offer your company's product or service the greatest opportunity. Going international does require a lot of time, money, and resources of a small business, and we want to make sure you're doing so in a very deliberate way to increase the likelihood of having a strong return on that investment. Next slide, please. We offer this service in partnership with U.S. Commercial Service and Enterprise Florida, who you're going to hear from right after me, I believe. And these partners are extremely valuable to us and to our small businesses in assisting you in identifying overseas opportunities once we've identified target markets for your company. They have a number of programs that you'll hear about today to help you identify potential partners, as well as grants available to support these efforts. There are qualifications for our Export Marketing Plan service, which include it's for Florida manufacturers and service providers, minimum in business for 2 years, 5 employees, as well as $500,000 in sales. The program has been very successful, and we've had a number of accolades, including most recently, one of our export marketing plan clients just was named the SBA's Small Business Exporter of the Year for the entire nation. So very proud of the program and how it can assist you in expanding into international markets. But again, we are here to help all small businesses grow and succeed. And on the next slide is my contact information. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions, or we can be of any assistance to you as you're looking to expand into international markets. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, my name is Ken Moradian. I'm with the U.S. Department of Commerce, and I wanted to thank the City of Palm Bay and SBA for allowing me to speak. If you could advance the slide, please. So while we're waiting for that to advance, like I said, I'm with the U.S. Department of Commerce and the International Trade Administration, and more specifically, the U.S. Commercial Service. The Commercial Service is the commercial section of the U.S. Embassy. And that's shorthand for saying that we're basically everywhere that you want to export to with our own people, and that we really only do three things. One of them is to help you to sell your U.S. exports in foreign markets. One of them is to help you to defend your commercial interests abroad, and one of them is to attract greenfield investment into the United States. To anticipate the latency, I'm going to say advance the slide, but on this slide, what you'll see is that our customer is organized under the laws of the United States. That's the first qualification criterion. Beyond that, for certain of our services, you need to have at least 51% content, US content, in the good or service we're helping you to promote. So what do? Really, we do a lot of things under each of these three headings. I'm going to give you an example of each. So in terms of identifying, screening, and qualifying potential foreign business partners, we can identify, screen, and qualify these partners, yes, but we can also set meetings for them with you and facilitate those meetings and then debrief you afterward on appropriate follow-up given what took place and local market conditions. And those partners could be buyers, but they could be agents, distributors, representatives, etc. We can help you to understand how to comply with US or foreign regulations, such as US export controls. We can advocate on behalf of you as the US bidder or the US bid in a competitive tender abroad where the tender owner is a government, whether that's the government of the country or its cantonal or provincial government or municipal government or even a parastatal corporation. We can help you to defend your commercial interests abroad in terms of overcoming trade irritants, technical or non-technical, technical or tariff or non-tariff barriers to trade. And then business attraction, I'm going to gloss over because I think most of you are not economic development organizations, but if you are an economic development organization like the City of Palm Bay, we can help you to promote the City of Palm Bay as a destination for inward investment into the United States. If you'd like to advance the slide one, please. So in terms of what we, hold on, let me get myself where I am here in this presentation because I've got this parallel. What we don't do, these are things that commonly I get asked about. These are referrals elsewhere. If it's a foreign origin item, we can't help you to distribute it anywhere or defend your commercial interests vis-a-vis that foreign origin item. I send people with foreign origin items to the World Trade Center Orlando locally. I know we have some participants from outside of this region. For assistance starting a company, even a company to eventually engage in international trade, I send people to SCORE Orlando. For needs that exceed our mandate or our bandwidth here at the Orlando U.S. Export Assistance Center, there are a number of local partners that I use, including this SBDC that you just heard from, Enterprise Florida that you will hear from soon, and others. In terms of trade irritants or other problems that you'd like our assistance overcoming, we can certainly engage up to the point that it enters the courts. But once it enters a foreign court, unless there's some irregularity, we cannot become involved. For litigation, I would refer you to the Florida Bar Association for a lawyer referral. And then we can qualify foreign companies for you as potential business partners, but we have no legal authority to qualify a U.S. company. If you want to advance the slide, please. There are a number of entities in the export ecosystem here in Central Florida and actually throughout the state. And we don't have time for me to go into great detail on each. So I'm just going to tell you one thing that I think is cool about each one of them. And you're going to hear from Enterprise Florida soon, but EFI has great trade grants. They have great presence at trade shows and export sales missions as well. The World Trade Center Orlando is a little bit unique in that it does both imports and exports. The Export-Import Bank of the United States is a federal agency that can insure your foreign receivables against non-payment, which can help you to sleep better at night or even gain access to some financing that you wouldn't have otherwise. SBA you just heard from just now, they've got some great loan products. The Central North Florida District Export Council are peers of yours who can provide you with some free business counseling. That's kind of cool. Florida Makes can help you with standards conformity, and they can also help you with best practices in manufacturing. The Florida Small Business Development Center you just heard from, they can really help you to identify the right markets for maximum return on investment. SCORE Orlando is really good at helping you to noodle through whether you even want to be a business owner. Central Florida International Trade Office, you're going to hear from soon. They have some really interesting research products they can offer, among other things. Prospera helps majority Hispanic-owned companies, especially with grants to obtain professional services, accountants, attorneys, that sort of thing. Economic development organizations include folks like the City of Palm Bay. They can help with site selection, workforce development, zoning, permitting, and other things that can enable you to grow your business. And chambers of commerce and associations are great touch points for networking. If you want to advance the slide one, I think that brings me to the end of my presentation. Indeed, it does. This is how you can reach me. It's best to reach me on my mobile phone or via email. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, the City of Palm Bay and my esteemed colleagues who I always enjoy sharing these presentations with. This particular webinar is going to be similar to the Fast and Furious movie franchise because any one of us could give a 20-minute presentation on our respective organizations, but instead we're only trying to whet your appetite and pique your interest, and therefore you can follow up with each of us as you might need to based on the services that have been described already and you'll hear more about. Next slide, please. A couple of these I'm just going to gloss over because each one will be, everyone will be receiving a copy of this presentation via PDF. Very briefly, we are the state's economic development organization. Most people know us for the business development portion of EFI that helps to attract new companies to Florida. And then we also have the trade side, which I, along with colleagues around the state, am responsible for helping Florida companies export more of their products and services. Next slide, please. We are in the business of helping primarily manufacturers. And I say that primarily because in addition, we also support companies that support our other industry sectors. So if a company manufactures in the state of Florida, they are almost guaranteed of receiving a grant. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, if they take in a raw product and send out a finished product, they can qualify. In the case of aviation, aerospace, and defense, which is my sector statewide, in addition, I'm responsible for 10 counties in Central Florida, of which Brevard is one of them. In the case of aviation, aerospace, and defense, there's a lot of companies called MROs, maintenance, repair, and overhaul companies. They support the commercial and defense airlines industry. They would qualify even though they don't necessarily manufacture something, but they do support a very, very important ecosystem that helps the industry, that is aviation, aerospace, and defense, grow significantly. Next slide, please. The eligibility is as follows. And again, this is primarily for our grants. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is the same for the SBDC, who frankly are in a great position, as well as to some extent the U.S. Commercial Service. If you've never exported, then you need to begin with the SBDC and Chris Leggett, who you'll be hearing from later with the Central Florida International Trade Office, possibly Ken with the U.S. Commercial Service. And once you are export ready or have export experience, then our grants are available to you. You have to have adequate capital for the long haul. A lot of companies think exporting will solve all their financial problems, and that simply is not true. It is an amazing opportunity to diversify in a whole host of ways, client base, products, you name it, but it's a long-term process. It requires an investment in time, capital, and human resources. It also must have 100% management support. Without that, your exporting strategy will likely not work. In addition, the company has to be in business for at least 2 years, can be a Florida registered or is a Florida registered corporation on sunbiz.org, has 500 employees or less 500 employees or less worldwide, and is not a publicly traded company. Next slide, please. And I will only, again, touch on these quickly. The trade show grants, which had been mentioned briefly by Ken, for in-person shows. Any trade show outside of the U.S. that makes sense to you and your company can receive a 75% up to $7,500 reimbursable grant. Virtual trade shows can receive up to $2,500. Business matchmaking can be done through the Gold Key program, which is a product of the U.S. Commercial Service. That too is a cost. However, it's a reimbursable grant under our programs. We also have virtual business matchmaking, and that covers up to $2,500. The U.S. Commercial Service has their version, and Enterprise Florida has its version. I'll mention a bit more about that later. Registration and certification. If a company is required to have a registration or certification to do business in another country, and that will result in new business, we have a grant that will cover 50% up to $10,000. Website localization is a really great program for companies that are wanting to penetrate markets around the world. It, in fact, involves 2 websites in 2 native languages of 2 new markets that a company wants to penetrate. We contract with a company out of the UK. They produce these 2 websites. They essentially are the existing website, but translated into the respective languages. The cost of that is $12,000. Our grant covers $8,000. And last but not least is probably my favorite among all, which Jill has already spoken about, is the Export Marketing Plan. It is truly an amazing document. It is your export business strategy, period, end of sentence. And any company that is fortunate enough to have one is truly ahead of almost all their competition, unless their competition has one too. Next slide, please. This is the virtual business matchmaking. We, as I mentioned, have our own program through EFI, as does the U.S. Commercial Service. We don't care which one a company uses. It's really whatever works best. Next slide, please. Eligibility, again, I won't spend time because my clock is quickly counting down. The companies can receive 4 grants in EFI's fiscal year, which is July 1 to June 30, and it's mix and match. Again, you will receive copies of this and can look at it more closely. Next slide, please. And that's it. As I mentioned, I am responsible for 10 counties, including Brevard. If anyone is tuning in from another county, contact me and I'll put you in touch with my colleague who covers that region. Thank you again, and I'll turn it over to Chris.
Thanks very much, Mike. And thank you to Danielle and Joan for organizing this, and to the City of Palm Bay for inviting me today to talk a little bit about what we do at the Central Florida International Trade Office. I'm Chris Leggett. I'm the program manager there. And our organization is relatively new. We were formed in April of 2014 when JP Morgan Chase and Orange County government decided that they wanted to have an organization that would fill in a few of the holes and act as a hub for the Central Florida community for international trade. One of the things we do is help companies that are interested in importing, but I'm going to focus only on exporting today. I also want to mention that even though we are funded primarily by Orange County and the City of Orlando now, we serve the entire Central Florida region. And really, if anybody calls me, which happens because if you Google Florida International Trade, you'll come across our organization. We'll help you. Our definition of Central Florida really is basically Osceola County over to Brevard and Volusia counties. We're located along with the Florida SBDC office at the National Entrepreneur Center at Fashion Square Mall, but we'll come out and meet with you wherever you're located, meet with you virtually, whatever works for you. That's how we will function. Next slide, please. I thought it would be interesting to talk a little bit about why you might want to consider exporting. You've got a lot of great resources here today, but maybe you haven't decided yet that exporting is right for you. And so in Palm Bay, it's always important as small businesses to recognize that 95% of the world and 3/4 of global wealth is outside the US. So it's a huge market. If you're looking at selling anywhere in the US, then you should really be looking at selling anywhere in the world. People are willing to pay a premium for made in the USA, so oftentimes you can get better prices when you're exporting. It's important as part of your strategy to mitigate risk so that you're not just dependent on one buyer or one region. You want to be selling into as many markets as possible. This can help you more fully utilize your production capacity. It can help extend product life, where a product that might be becoming obsolete here still might have substantial demand abroad. It's helpful for smoothing out your business cycles, particularly if you have a product that sells only during part of the year. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, when it might be winter, it will be summer in the Southern Hemisphere. So that opens up a whole new time of year in which you can sell your products. It's great as learning lessons that's going to help you improve your competitiveness both at home as well as abroad. Because you'll learn different ways, and that's one of the key things that we all emphasize for our clients who are looking to export. Is you got to think in the same mindset as the people that you're selling to, and then by thinking about your product differently, that's going to set you up well for selling better at home. It increases the value of your intellectual property if you've licensed abroad, and others are already exporting. For Brevard County, depending if you look at the Census Bureau, it's 1.4 billion. Enterprise Florida and the Central Florida International Trade Office commissioned Wiser Trade to put some data together to us. I'm not going to go into all the details, but basically they attribute exports to where manufacturing exists in the state as opposed to where it's reported from. And the number that they came up was 5.2 billion for Brevard County, which actually makes it the biggest exporting county in the state of Florida. Oh, sorry, next slide. Also, I think it's important for you to think about exporting as not being something that only someone else can do. The fact that you're here today is indicative of you being interested, and you never should think that you're not able to export. It's not a risk-free activity, but you have policies available that Sandro has briefly touched on from the SBA, and we'll speak about more later. Ex-Im Bank will help ensure payment. You're not too small, with nearly 42% of all U.S. exporters having fewer than 19 employees. Your product or service might not be known yet outside the US, but the Made in USA brand has never been stronger. And finally, it might not be a simple activity, but CFITO and other service providers that you're hearing from today are here to help. The next slide, please. And so, what can we do for your business? We offer one-on-one counseling to help you decide whether international trade is right for your business and what steps your business needs to take in order to become export ready. We're going to get you asking yourself the right questions and be able to point you in the direction of finding the answers or linking you together with the service who can. As I mentioned earlier, we do this at your convenience. We'll meet when it's convenient for you and where you think it's going to be helpful. And as I mentioned, we also help with importing. We offer workshops and newsletters. For example, I actually was a couple minutes late because we just had a webinar today on how food and beverage sector companies can export. So we talk about other relevant trade topics and markets, what's involved in exporting to those markets. We help connect you to opportunities. In particular, we help host foreign buyer delegations to the region and connect them up to the relevant economic development organizations like the City of Palm Bay, as well as local businesses who are interested either in selling to them or buying from them. And finally, we help connect you to the resource providers that you're hearing from today, both in the private and public sectors, who can help you export, as well as help you get ready to best benefit from their services. As Ken mentioned, they're looking to work with export-ready companies. And if at the first time around you weren't considered export ready, we'll be able to help get you to that position where you can go to the U.S. Commercial Service or any of the other services and have everything that they need in order to be able to provide their service. And we do this all for free. Next slide, please. So thank you, everybody. Here's my contact information. And as others have said, we'll be sharing this to all the participants. Thank you.
All right, I just want to confirm y'all can hear me okay? All right, perfect, thank you. This is Joan Yunkala Brown, Deputy City Manager for the City of Palm Bay. I'm going to present on behalf of Jennifer Simmons. She is unable to attend either session today or next Wednesday. Jennifer Simmons is a specialist at the Canaveral Port Authority. She handles cargo business development. She oversees the Foreign Trade Zone 136 program. So what is a foreign trade zone? Having worked for Broward County in the past, I do have some experience myself with exporting and assisting businesses with exports and some knowledge of the foreign trade zone. So I'm not going to go into detail about all of the content in her slides, but I will give you the overview. So a foreign trade zone is a restricted access site in or adjacent to a customs port of entry. So in this case, Port Canaveral. And this is under the supervision of the U.S. Customs and Border Protection. So foreign trade zones, for the purposes of tariff laws, the foreign trade zones are treated as being outside of the U.S. And the foreign trade zones, any merchandise that is admitted into the foreign trade zone for operations such as storage, assembly, manufacturing, processing without being subject to formal customs entry procedures and the payment of customs duties. So there is some benefit to being located in a foreign trade zone in that the merchandise being removed from a foreign trade zone by way of exports is eliminated the tariffs and customs duties. And what that means, and I know we've already said the term tariff several times, but just in case anyone is not aware, tariff, when it comes to exports, is a tax, otherwise known as a duty, to be paid on a particular class of imports or exports. So the intent of a foreign trade zone program is to stimulate economic growth and development in the United States. This program has been designed to promote American competitiveness across the world by encouraging companies to maintain and expand operations in the U.S. and outside. The grantee is the Canaveral Port Authority. They have received the grant to handle the foreign trade zone number 136. That is the foreign trade zone that covers sections of Brevard County. Port Canaveral, again, is charged with operating the foreign trade zone. The foreign trade zone number 136 currently encompasses over 4,000 acres zoned designation, foreign trade zone designated land. There's a map upcoming in the slide, so we'll show you what that looks like here shortly. There are several types of foreign trade zones. There's the general purpose zone. It's established for multiple activities by multiple users. And then there is a sub-zone, so it designates an individual company that is unable to relocate to a general purpose zone and is typically designated for a company with manufacturing operations. Here is a map of Brevard County area in general. You can see out at Port Canaveral where there are orange triangles, that's the foreign trade zone. There are several other foreign trade zone sub-zones and foreign trade zone operators. So some benefits of the foreign trade zone designation include the elimination of duties. So no duties are paid on merchandise that is exported from a foreign trade zone to a location outside of the U.S. There is the deferral of duties. They are only paid when and if the merchandise is entered into the U.S. from the foreign trade zone. And then there is a reduction of duties for items manufactured within a zone, and this process allows you to elect the lower duty rate of either the foreign inputs or the finished product. And what this means is tariffs are assessed based on how an item is classified, so whether it's a component or the whole or end product. So a component could be the car radio, the whole or end product could be the car itself. Additional benefits include savings, and that's the elimination of drawback, which is a refund of certain duties or revenues, taxes, and fees collected upon the import of a good into the U.S. from a foreign trade zone. Savings on labor, overhead, and profit, which is used when calculating the duties value on foreign merchandise removed from a zone. And finally, savings on taxes, so tangible personal property imported from outside the U.S. and held in a zone, as well as those produced and held in a zone for exportation. They are not subject to tax and local ad valorem taxes while being stored until they are exported from that foreign trade zone. Other benefits, and I won't go into the details to all of these points here, but quotas and safeguards, improved inventory control systems, the software, and access to the special customs procedures, and then the ability to eliminate duty on materials when they are scrapped, wasted, destroyed, or consumed within the zone. This is just a kind of sample of the merchandise entering into a zone. And then finally, how can your company use the foreign trade zone? So there are several, as we've discussed, several ways to use the foreign trade zone. You can be an operator, meaning that you can locate within a general purpose zone and apply for the general purpose zone or subzone at your location. You could be a user, meaning like you locate an operator within the foreign trade zone hub. Or you can be an operator and user locating within a general purpose zone, and you would apply for a general purpose zone or subzone at your location. When it comes to getting started, you'll want to meet with the Port Authority, and that would be Jennifer Simmons, the Cargo Business Development Specialist, and she will walk you through the cost benefit of an analysis of establishing a foreign trade zone. It could be that you're looking to go through the application process or meet with Customs and Border Protection. She will walk you through that process, and again, I'm not familiar with all that, so I won't cover those in detail. There are a couple of other slides that I'm not going to read and get into because for the sake of time, but also because I'm not the subject matter expert, but I will skip ahead and just share Jennifer Simmons' contact information. Again, it's going to be on the very last slide with everybody else's contact information, but I encourage you to speak with Jennifer Simmons to see how you can participate in the Foreign Trade Zone number 136. The next presenter will be Dave Young, so I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you, Donnell and Joan in the city of Palm Bay for the opportunity today. My name's Dave Young. I'm the Director of Business Development with Avalon Wheeler Freight Services. We are located at, actually operating in the Foreign Trade Zone at Port Canaveral, and we provide warehousing and freight management services, a full supply chain company that we have here at Port Canaveral. Next slide, please. Today's topic, really, international trade, is what's I consider to be the backbone of the world's economy. The supply chain that moves the goods that we consume from the manufacturer to the consumer or to the market is truly a global phenomenon. With populations increasing really around the globe each day and the related economies increasing to maintain pace, the businesses that drive the economies have a requirement really to respond to this customer driven economy, and customers demand prompt service to their needs, which is driving the growth in e-commerce, where we are really on the threshold of global e-commerce, where customers will order from around the globe and receive delivery within 4 or 5 days or less. The essence of international trade. So who are really the organizations that make international trade tick? They are freight forwarders. Next slide, please. Freight forwarders are the most critical and essential part of international trade. They really bridge the gap between the manufacturer or producer and the market or the consumer. The service areas that freight forwarders deliver span across the entire supply chain, thus making them the critical part of helping the goods move from origin to market or customer. I'll move through quickly here. Some of we could, again, as noted before, talk on some of these for long periods of time, but I'll move quickly through sort of the services that freight forwarders provide. It starts with really the export haulage, which is the transfer of the goods from the producer to a freight forwarder's warehouse to ready them for the shipment process. And a very critical part of freight forwarders services is customs services. Most all freight forwarders have in-house customs brokers. A very critical part of international trade and supplying goods around the globe is dealing with the customs clearance process. It's very heady, very intense, and freight forwarders handle all elements of customs clearance. Then it moves through to the transportation mode. The freight forwarders are the company that have relationships with every transportation mode, be it trucking, air freight, ocean freight, rail. It's the freight forwarder's job to create the responsibilities, maintain adequate pricing, and look for the most economic and efficient manner to move the goods through whatever transportation mode is needed for that good to move. Origin handling is next. That's the last step before it actually leaves the origin country and starts to move to the destination country. And that's handling all the aspects and the documents that are required and the validations, final customs clearances. A lot of times this will take place when applicable in a foreign trade zone or a bonded warehouse. Those are part of the freight forwarders service offerings. If they have a warehousing component, is to provide those zones and or bonded warehousing capabilities. Then they manage the transport in whatever mode it moves in, and then it gets to the destination country where there's another clearance process. So now that you're in a destination country, you have to go through customs processes in that country. That's really where the heady process of customs clearance takes place, is on import and to wherever the destination country is. Then it goes through again to destination handling, where it will move from whatever mode of transport into a freight forwarder's warehouse and get ready for the final leg, which was delivery to the customer or the destination. And again, a lot of times destination handling happens in a foreign trade zone or a bonded warehouse where applicable. And then again, it moves from there into the final leg, which is the transport to a market or a final customer on the other end. So you can see that really a freight forwarder handles every element of transport from the producer or manufacturer all the way through to the market or the consumer. And they deal with not only the modes of transportation, but the warehousing and the customs clearance as well. Next slide, please. So freight forwarders are really the invisible hands behind the entire international trade process that helps the goods move through the supply chain. Next slide, please. So any questions you might have, feel free to make contact with us at Avalon Wheeler Freight Services. You can reach us at www.awfsllc.com, and we'd be happy to talk to you about your supply chain needs. Thank you.
All right, so we have completed the presentation. So what we will do next is, there are no current questions currently in the chat, but if there are any questions, go ahead and enter them. We'll give you a few minutes, and Danielle and I will read them out to have the presenters respond. However, at this point, it looks like we don't have any questions. This last slide includes all of the contact information for the presenters on today's session. So I just want to thank all of our presenters for their time. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to them individually. I just want to remind everyone that the presentation is available in PDF form in the SharePoint link in the chat. The next session is next Wednesday, April 28th at 11 a.m. And that next session, session 2, covers international methods of payment and financing resources. Registration is not required. Any questions come up, Danielle? Not yet. No. Okay. All right. So seeing no questions, thank you everybody for your participation.
So this question is from Joe Rowlett. The shaded orange in Melbourne for international trade, was that the airport?
Yes, that is the airport. They have been designated as I think a general purpose zone. It is a foreign trade zone hub according to Jennifer Simmons' map. So I would encourage you, if you have any interest, if your company is located there, or if you're looking to locate near the airport, to be located within the foreign trade zone hub, get with Jennifer Simmons to learn more, but that does appear to cover the airport.
Okay, and then Jessica Solistio, who to contact for consultation. And then, sorry, just saw it when you sent the PowerPoint. Yes, I will drop the PowerPoint link again in the chat for you. Let me know if you're not able to access it, and I can email it to you directly. My contact information is on there. Feel free to reach out.
For a consultation, it's going to depend on what your questions are. Each individual listed on this last slide has their own subject matter expertise. They all work together. So I encourage you to take a look at the slides, and the contact information listed at the end of that particular slide that you're interested in. Reach out to that individual, and they'll be more than happy to assist you with your question. If they cannot answer it, they will certainly know who the best point of contact is. All of these folks work together. Any other questions?
No, that should be somebody's typing. Nancy Falcone, you're welcome, Nancy. She just said thank you for presenting this important topic of the resources available for businesses.
Absolutely, and thank you, Nancy, for being a partner and getting this export webinar series out to your members and to the public as well.
You're very welcome. Thank you for presenting.
All right, seeing no other questions, looks like we're right on the dot, closing at noon. Thanks again to all the presenters, and we hope to see everyone again next Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.